And I call the meeting to order. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for the planning commissioners and the public for participating today. My name is David Weiner. I'm the chair of the Virginia Beach Planning Commission. And welcome to the February 10th, 2021 Virtual Planning Commission public hearing. I call this meeting to order. Today's meeting is being conducted electronically in accordance with Virginia Code Section 2.2-3708.2, Virginia Code Section 15.2-1413, and the city's Continuity of Government Ordinance adopted September 15th, 2020, and Chapter 1289 of the 2020 Acts of Assembly as amended. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be posted within 10 days on the Planning Commission website. Today, Mrs. Oliver will not be with us this afternoon, but all the planning commissioners are here. I have asked staff to describe the order of business and the rules for today's meeting. Mrs. Coleman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Virginia Beach Planning Commission takes pride in being fair and courteous to all parties participating. It is important that all involved understand how the commission normally conducts its meetings. It is equally important that everyone treat each other and the members of the commission with respect and civility. Following is the order of business for this public hearing: withdrawals and deferrals. The chairman would ask if there are any requests to withdraw or defer an item on the agenda. Consideration of these requests will be made first. The consent agenda. The second order of business is the consideration of the consent agenda, which are those items that the Planning Commission believe are unopposed and which have favorable staff recommendation. The regular agenda. The commission will then proceed with the remaining items on the agenda. Speakers in support or opposition of agenda item will have 3 minutes to speak unless they are solely representing a large group, such as a civic league or homeowners association, in which case they will have 10 minutes. Speakers who are participating virtually today, please mute any additional devices you have in the room to avoid any unnecessary background noise and/or the possibility of echoing and reverberation. Please note that once your name is called, you should wait 3 seconds before speaking to ensure the Planning Commission hears your complete remarks. Please begin your comments by identifying yourself. Please note that the actions taken by the Commission today are in the form of a recommendation to the Virginia Beach City Council. The final decision to approve or disapprove an application will be made by the City Council. The Commission thanks you for your participation, and we hope that your experience here today leaves you feeling that you have been heard and treated fairly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Coleman. So today we have no items to be withdrawn, but we do have 2 items to be deferred. On item number 11, since it was advertised, I think we still have a couple of speakers for item number 11. So we are going to let the speakers talk now before we go through a deferral on items 10 and 11.
The first speaker on item 11 is Barbie Sherrill. Ms. Sherrill?
Yes.
Please start your comments.
Thank you for having me here today. I'm with Cape Story by the Sea, where our family has had the property for about 50 years. We got a short-term rental notice on December 18th about the short-term rentals, which we strongly oppose. We've had no civic engagement. We have informed City Council we do not want this. We are not interested in it. And we were never asked about it. And this has been forced down our throat, and we've had to go through these meetings. Our long-standing neighborhood is a deeply rooted neighborhood. Just to give you some idea, with the neighborhood that we have between us, we have thousands of hours of volunteer work. We do cleanup for Shore Drive, cleanup for the bike path. We've had fireworks that have been for the greater good of all, parades, block parties, Halloweens, cookies for the troop we support, Santa gift for underprivileged families. We've helped in voting. We've helped with the vaccine coordination. So I don't understand why on earth Jim Wood would inflict us with this. And I'm certainly hope that you can go back to him and we can stop this cat and mouse game that we've made it very clear the Civic League does not want and Shore Drive Coalition does not want. These are our tax dollars that we have. I mean, we hire you, we hire Jim Wood, and we keep saying no. I don't understand where this is going. There is nothing in short-term rentals that adds to the wellness and benefits our deeply rooted, tight-knit community. We are outraged by this. And any of you that would like to come to my neighborhood, Cape Story by the Sea, I will invite you, I will take you around, and I will show you what kind of fantastic neighborhood we have. And just to let you know, we have the Delta Hotel that is now that we are sandwiched in, that has, I believe, 238 rooms, and then, or 295 rooms. And then we also have the park that for guests has over 200, and I believe 40 campsites and rooms. Just to let you know that we also have a note from Councilman Jim Wood on January 27th. His words, "I am going to request that this area be removed from the overlay proposal." Then if he said it, let's make him do it. Those were his words, his promise, and let's stop all of this now. I would greatly appreciate it, and my neighborhood would appreciate it if this could come to an end and we could be left in peace for an outstanding neighborhood that helps the community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker is Enid Luchi.
Hi.
Please begin your comments.
Thank you, Councilor, Planning Commissioners, rather. I appreciate you hearing this today. My name is Enid Luchi. I'm a resident of Croatan, and I want to speak against the changes in the new proposed STR ordinance. We think in Croatan we should be put in the overlay district because Croatan has always been a vacation home, historically neighborhood. There is lots of STR support in Croatan, as a matter of fact. You may have heard that there is no support. However, we are aware you have not had the other side of the argument. A lot of Croatan homeowners are in support of STRs, regardless of the fact whether they are full-time residents or part-time residents or vacation property owners. We in Croatan are responsible homeowners. We respect the quiet and peace of our neighbors, and therefore we do not see why we should be left out of an overlay. Instead, we are exactly the same as North End. We have 400 feet, 5 seconds walk to the beach. We can't even get insurance for our property because we are near the ocean. This is the nature of the neighborhood. According to historical tidbits, this neighborhood has indeed been built as a vacation home neighborhood by surfers that love to surf in Croatan. So we really are in support of making Croatan overlay. I would also want to say that if you are going to consider changes, please consider changes of the CAP application process. It's excruciatingly long. It saps resources from the city where you could use them more efficiently on other areas. It's subjective. It's unpleasant. It's pitching neighbors against each other. And there is no way to win in this application because everybody seems to check all the metric objective parameters. But then, for whatever reason, or hypothetical reasons, unsubstantiated claims, things get denied. So we're hoping that you will think about changing to an administrative type of process, just like we currently do to register our properties with the Commissioner of Revenue. We pay $50 for that, and we pay $360 for your CAP application. We make the whole Commissioner of Revenue fee $400, have people go through that as a business license, and then enforce it. It is unfair for people that apply for a CAP.
Ma'am, thank you for your comments. I want to point out something real quick before we keep going. Everybody does get 3 minutes to speak on this. I don't like to have to cut people off, but everybody, to make it fair for everybody else, or for everybody, we get 3 minutes to speak on this. Thank you. Wow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next speaker is Ms. Kendall Maynard. Ms. Maynard, please start by stating your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm not sure if you can see me or not. Let me work on that real quick.
Ms.
My name
Maynard,
is Kendall. Yes, can you hear me?
yes, you can start speaking.
Okay, Kendall Maynard. I have a STR in 108 45th Street in North End. I understood earlier that we were going to be deferred to next month or indefinitely, so we were not all prepared to speak, but I'll give you what I have. About 2 years ago, I did get the letter because I am grandfathered in that I needed to do more stuff with the city. I came by. I found out since I was grandfathered not to worry about it. But as of now, I sent everyone the letter that said Ginger Beach. I've been going to Ginger Beach since I was little in the 1960s. I have a ton of experience. I've hosted guests, both Airbnb as a home share, as well as an STR for the last 34 years. I love Virginia Beach. I want to work with my neighbors. I feel like we have a right to rent. My neighbors have all supported me, and they feel like I have the right to rent. They don't want to come forward to speak since they do not want any repercussions personally. So I find this fear is on both sides of this issue, and we're not getting enough input from the communities. All I've heard is rumors. They think that we're boarding houses, and the fear mongering among those neighbors is not supported by any statistics I've seen. I believe we started down this rabbit hole, and I've read the survey that you sent out about project engagement that you've already done. Please review question 3 again. 59% no to should be prohibited outside of specifically identified and designated overlays. I know we have all been living in our immediate pandemic quarantine bubbles, but let's virtually pop that bubble and start thinking out of the box. I'm going to skip quite a bit here because I feel like I'm not going to have enough time. The cost of the CUP process and then adding overlays. And then again, this morning, I heard something about density. You're really going down the rabbit hole of more and more regulation instead of trying to keep it easy and simple. The best way to keep it easy and simple is to look at new solutions and really look at how much we've actually had nuisances out of these STRs. From what I understand from Ms. Peebles, we don't even know how many grandfathered STRs there are. I know there's several applications. So I agree that I am pro STR. I've been doing it for 35 years. Apply for a business license, pay taxes that way. The current ordinances will work with that. 3 legitimate grievances a year, and then your license can be revoked. That gives you a 1-year time frame instead of a 5-year time.
Ma'am, thank you for your comments.
Next speaker is Dana Sampson. Ms. Dana, please start by stating your name for the record and begin your comments. Thank you.
I can't find the thing. Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please start your comments.
Thank you. My name is Dana Sampson, and my husband and I are a middle-class family that supports our income with short-term rentals. We do not see the new proposal regarding the short-term rentals as much of a compromise, but rather a further infringement on our property rights. The proposed overlay districts to us just don't make much sense. It seems to be that a lot of the issues with this is some of the irresponsible few STR owners, of which we do not know who they are sort of bringing things up to light that don't make much sense to all of us as current STR owners, myself, a group of people that we know, friends and neighbors and things like that. Tourism is our main industry, paid for by all of our tax dollars, and it seems like the latest proposal is just for the interest of the most affluent homeowners in the hotel industry. The new regulations would essentially shutter most of our small middle-class STR businesses in the strongest economic area of opportunity in Virginia Beach. And this is all also being proposed during a very tough time for small businesses. We bought our short-term rental properties with the intentions on bringing families to Virginia Beach to experience our city, spend money at our local restaurants, our shops, basically bringing tax dollars into our city and asking them to come here and have fun. We made sure to go to all the sessions and meetings when the current ordinance was being put together, and we were fully in agreement with it. It brought a sense of fairness and organization to it. We're just now quite astounded that all that work is being threatened by unnecessary changes with overlays and limiting the amount of rentals, and it's just unfair and unjust. It also threatens those of us that have gone through the original CUP process with the current with the idea that those current CUP should expire at the end of a 5-year time frame with no chance for renewal. We set a business plan in place when we purchase our properties using the agreed upon ordinance as a guideline and following all the rules. And the proposed changes would only wreck that plan entirely. We personally have never had an issue with our STR. We don't know any other local host that has. Our phone numbers are given to all of our neighbors. They know us. They know how to reach us. They know that we place quality renters in our short terms. So I'm sure that any homeowner would be happy to work within reasonable short-term rental rules that actually address problems that are allegedly coming up, but making it illegal to rent our property or set extremely strict restrictions don't seem to be any sort of compromise. Property ownership is one of the few resources many of us can leverage to work hard and make a better life for their families. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker is Mr. Lee Atkins. Mr. Atkins, please start by stating your name for the record and begin your comments.
Hi, my name is Lee Atkins. I know I've only got 3 minutes, so I'm going to be really, really quick here. I'm a citizen here at Virginia Beach, and we have a couple of short-term rentals. Other than the new density stuff that's being brought up, the signs. Look, the signs mean that they're unoccupied and they're vacant. That's going to lead to a bunch of crime, which is going to make short-term rentals look bad. The density, these items are being brought up by Miss Oliver. We all love Miss Oliver, but her grandfather, her father, her uncle, everybody in her family's in hotels. So everything that's been brought up by Miss Oliver has an agenda to that. We all knew that. The noise, at first it was about the noise and everything, and you got the numbers on that, and then you got the real numbers, and the noise and the trouble that was blamed on the association. The short-term rentals wasn't the case. Now it's a CUP issue. You keep blaming different issues. We don't really understand that. The numbers don't lie on the calls and the complaints. I think there should be an overlay. I also think there should be, outside the overlay that you make, they should be granted by CUPs or denied by CUPs. And I think the overlay should be Bird Neck Road to the beach. I don't think you should just go 3 blocks off. That just protects the developers now that are, instead of doing hotels, they're doing short-term rentals now in that overlay. And it's just, I feel kind of odd that you're protecting them with the protection of not allowing that past those 3 blocks off the beach. So now the hotel people are doing condos and short-term rental because it's profitable. The grandfather, so I know some grandfathered hosts that call on the new people, the CUP people, because they don't want the competition. What if all these people calling you guys are like Miss Messner and they just have a weird point about everything and they want to just badger and badger? I mean, you have to go kind of with conditional use permits, so you're making sure you're getting the right input here. Businesses, of course, depend on growth. I don't have to explain to you guys that. You're making a bunch of money off of this. I think it's like, 7% of $2 a night or something like that. You're getting families. You're not going to go and take your family to a hotel and put everybody in different hotel rooms. You yourself, all of you, are going to go stay at a short-term rental. There's no denying that. There's total hotel agenda. We have hotel. I don't have to go into the hotel agenda and the commissioners or people that are for that. All these people have mortgages on their property and bought these certain rules and regulations, and they have mortgages. What are you going to do? Tell them they can't do it and have them default on their mortgages? What other businesses do you regulate like this? And why are you spending so much of the taxpayers' money on this? This is crazy. Mr. Redmond is spot on. You need to have codes. You need to enforce the codes and do it that way. Long-term renters, I've had those too. They're a pain in the butt. You got the cars that don't cut the grass. They don't do their yards of wreck. Short-term rental, you have to keep it pristine. You have to keep it perfect. You have to make everybody happy. It's better, I think, for business, for the community. And this is all short-term. what do you think? Virginia Beach in 1970 is the same as it is in 2020. So think ahead. This is a short-term solution. You got it's your.
The next speaker is Christopher Sproul. Mr. Sproul, please start your comments.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please start your comments.
Yeah, just seconding some of the other callers have indicated. So we live in Croatan Beach. I know the Croatan Civic League specifically has come out very strongly against short-term rentals. Supposedly there's a poll taken that something like 70% of Croatan Beach property owners were against short-term rentals. Well, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that there's no poll that was inclusive that actually polled all of Croatan Beach. And from talking to multiple neighbors, multiple short-term rental owners inside Croatan Beach, most people were excluded from this supposed poll that the Civic League conducted. It was conducted on, I guess, the Nextdoor app, which a lot of people don't even have. And then in addition to that, you're talking about 40 or so rentals in Croatan Beach that would be excluded in your new STR overlay. You're essentially crushing 40 small businesses or 40 small business owners. Additionally, you have to think that a lot of your short-term rental owners are just people who have seasonal homes, and maybe they want to live in their home part of the year and rent it out the other part of the year. I think you're essentially ending a lot of business opportunity for Virginia Beach and tourism benefits that people could benefit from in the city and the tax base as a whole. And it's also been brought up that this revenue stream for the city generates a lot. The 7% plus the $2 a night tax adds to the overall tax base for the city. And I'll just conclude my comments with that. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, sir. The next speaker is Todd Solomon. Mr. Solomon, you have 3 minutes. Please begin your comments.
Chairman Wiener and council members or commission members. Just a point of, you may want to call the next name in the list as you're calling names, just to get everybody prepared. I'm here tonight, or this afternoon actually, to reiterate from the Shore Drive Community Coalition, Cape Story by the Sea, and the Bayfront Advisory Committee that we are against an overlay district for Eastern Shore Drive, mainly Cape Story area, that makes all 450 homes by right overnight, by right short-term rentals. That's just a ridiculous point to try and push on us that we bought these homes. We're not going to wake up tomorrow and live in a neighborhood that's a tourist overnight hotel next to you, next to 450 homes. So I think the easiest, least painful approach would be to just get rid of the overlay districts here and at the north end also, and just keep it like you're mentioning down at the oceanfront where tourism is the business. If you want to start talking about figuring things out with requirements, density requirements and things like that, it shouldn't just be in an overlay. That should be the entire city then. We need to have a future discussion in regards to that. And I think talking with the overlay districts, if you plan to keep those, you should be talking to our neighborhoods. Nobody, City Council, yourselves, Planning Commission, nobody has come to the Civic Leagues yet to ask us specifically and have a conversation. 3 minutes in front of you where you just listen to us and nod, that's not a conversation. We need a back and forth discussion. Polls and surveys, those are no good either. We need a back and forth discussion to understand what you're talking about. It's fun to watch you guys in the workshop. It's kind of neat. It's like watching a football game and cheering and yelling and screaming when your team does bad because it was a stupid play. But unfortunately, you can't hear us in that discussion. So now that you've got another month, possibly another 2 months, we ask, as you go through this process, come to Cape Story. We can do a Zoom meeting with Cape Story, Planning Commission, Jim Wood, explain to us why you want to keep Cape Story as an overlay, because nobody's explained that. Why are we special or unspecial, however you want to look at it, and the rest of the city isn't? So how did you come up with North End and us? We're not a tourist district. We never have been. We're a neighborhood. Creating these unlimited number, even if you conditional use permit, who's coming up with the number that the bar is going to be set at? So you'll destroy neighborhoods. It might be good for tourists only. So again, make sure you keep us in the loop. Come talk to us before you make any decisions, and anything that's decided within the overlay is probably going to be okay for the rest of the city. So we need to start branching out to that if that's the method you go. But again, the easiest way, get rid of the overlay district here at Cape Story and keep us as a neighborhood first. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Christina Chastain, followed by Jason Sampson. Ms. Chastain, please start your comments.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Christina Chastain, and I am a North End resident, a Vibe District restaurant and property owner, and a short-term rental operator on 17th Street. Like all of you, I am also a civic servant, serving as past and first chairwoman of the Resort Advisory Commission and member of the RAMP Steering Committee. Also former VB Restaurant Association president and lifelong lover of Virginia Beach. I'm here today in opposition of the new proposed ordinances and feel more time needs to be taken to craft fair and consistent rules for short-term rental operators. I host families and couples and wonderful sports event families and athletes that come to town. I contribute considerably to city taxes and meticulously take care of my property and guests and refer them to other businesses to showcase our wonderful city. I hope the Commission realizes that this is what guests are now searching out, especially in light of the pandemic and the information that has brought. Many guests want a private home without so many people in volume, such as in a traditional hotel model. I also want you to know that there have been very few legitimate unlawful happenings in STRs in Virginia Beach. I can assure you the STR operators only want good guests too. If we rent to bad guests, it is our property and livelihoods that are on the line. We are aligned with you and screen guests far better than a hotel ever could. But this is not about us versus hotels at all. There is a place at the table for all of us. This is Virginia Beach, a booming tourist town. There are plenty of guests to go around for both. I feel this proposal is rushed and haphazard, and you all as Planning Commission do not have quite enough information from all sides just yet. The complaints about STRs can be personal and anecdotal, and they lack supporting data. The facts support STRs, and these are some of the facts. In 2020, 88,270 calls were made to 311, and only 0.01%, just 14 calls related to STRs. This does not support the full-on war that has been waged against STRs and their operators. I do have some specific ideas and/or requests I ask you to consider. 52 contracts per year is a fair compromise, but please include that this can be 2 bookings per week. This allows for the busy tourist season, and it is a fair balance. I understand parking is a challenge for the city, and so we propose that the ordinance should read 1 parking space per the first 2 bedrooms and 1 space for each bedroom thereafter. In other words, 1 parking space per bedroom minus 1. I believe all other items need more consideration and more time as well. I also humbly request an appointment of a task force or subcommittee of STR owners so that we can work together on a proper and balanced solution to present to you. Finally, I want to speak in support of all STRs applying for their CUPs today. The most recent display of denial.
Ma'am, thank you for your comments.
The next speaker is Jason Sampson, followed by Kevin Parsons. Mr. Sampson, please start your comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Sampson. I live in Virginia Beach. I am a 38-year resident and real estate investor that owns a multitude of property types, which include a handful of short-term rentals in Virginia Beach. I'm here to voice my discontent in how city planning and council have been aggressively, without cause, trying to change the ordinance for short-term rentals approved and passed several years ago. First, I am in favor for short-term rentals throughout the city. I can say that any person I've spoken to that also does short-term rentals is more concerned with having the approval and support of their neighbors, as well as maintaining better care of our properties than most of the surrounding neighbors. Remember, our goal is to bring people to Virginia Beach and give them an experience that makes them return. So I know you heard me, let me say it again. Our goal is to bring people to Virginia Beach and give them an experience that makes them return. Please let that sink in. It upsets me that both planning and council continually talk about the alleged complaints from other citizens, but will not and cannot provide proof, which, if I'm correct, formal communication should be available to the public. I understand that the hotels don't like us and have someone lobbying on their behalf because, well, we are a threat to their business. As I have owned several businesses throughout the years, it is known that when your business model changes, you have to learn to adapt. Rather than lobbyists trying to limit us, they should advise their clients to adapt, as we have been here as long as they have, and understand that technology like Airbnb has threatened their business model. Sorry, guys, it's obvious by looking at the numbers that people want to travel and feel local versus being trapped in a small hotel. Furthermore, the fact that a city planning member reached out to an abundance of short-term rental owners and threatened us over an emailed petition, some of who were not part of it, is uncalled for and proof that changes need to happen in our city level. Additionally, city planning should not be strong-arming CUP applicants into agreeing to ordinances not approved by the city council in order to get CUPs approved. There is an alliance for the support of short-term rentals and growing in Virginia Beach. It is being unified so we can come to you as one large group, just as the hotels have. I'm not that person, but can be found with a quick Google search. So I encourage anyone who wants to support this action to find me so that I can put them in touch. I am a longtime real estate investor and prefer my money to stay local, but the behavior, actions, and uncertainty of the path Virginia Beach is portraying has me taking my investments to other cities, and I know I'm not alone. I volunteer myself in front of you, if desired, as a person to give feedback and opinions in an influential and positive win-win direction, so it fits the desired outcome and objective of not only planning, council, but the citizens and owners of property in the city of Virginia Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Kevin Parsons, followed by FC Munden. Mr. Parsons, please start your comments. Yes, sir. Please start your comments.
Yes. My name is Kevin Parsons. I live up on the north end of 78th Street. I bought my house in 2016 with the very specific plans to be able to support it and afford it with the short-term rentals. Many of my immediate neighbors also provide short-term rentals. I followed all the rules. I've never had any incidents of problems, and I have my house professionally managed by a local realty property manager. I'm grandfathered, and I wouldn't have bought here if the 2018 ordinance or these new rules were in place, and they were created after I bought my place. So I feel a little bit like the rug is being pulled out from under me for affording my property. People have touched on this before that spoke before me, but I really want this to sink in. We are supporting families with their Virginia Beach vacations, and they have their own Virginia Beach legacies. They come to our houses, say they have a wonderful time, their children had a great time, they come back. I can't explain to you how many times I get repeat people coming back, families with little kids, that this is their Virginia Beach legacy. They're safe, they don't cause any problems, and they contribute quite a bit to create a safe, family-oriented environment for Virginia Beach. These families spend considerable amount of money at grocery stores, our attractions, the restaurants, clothing stores, supply stores, you can name it. If they leave, they're going to go and seek a similar experience down at Outer Banks. They're not going to go to Virginia Beach hotels. If you remember Ross Perot, that whoosh that he says, well, that whoosh that you may hear is all the Virginia Beach short-term rental dollars going to OBX, Outer Banks, instead of our local economy. So this is not just about me or the short-term rentals. This is about us. I mean, we've got to really think about really the impact. And I think that short-term rentals, the vast majority of them provide an experience that is really positive to Virginia Beach. It's really not us against the hotels. I disagree a little bit with some of the people on that. They're two different animals. The people that are going to hotels are not the same people that want to go to short-term rental houses. The families that we cater to are safe, and that's been proven by the statistics with the police calls and the incidents of statistics. On your side, I support and I'm okay with a lot of the inspections you're talking about, such as smoke detectors or deck inspections. This is because I want to know if a risk exists on my property or other neighbors' properties. And all of us that rent short-term at North End have considerable amount of money invested both in property and its furnishing. I mean, it's a high-end area. So I would not risk my expensive house if a significant risk were to exist. Again, I've never had any problems with it.
Sir, thank you for your comments.
The next speaker is FC Munden, followed by Gail Johnson. FC Munden, please start your comment.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm MC Munden, Cape Story by the Sea resident since '76. And I just wanted to point out, I'm sure you're all aware, but at least 3 established Cape Story, Fort Story, Shore Drive, civic organizations. That would be the Bayfront Advisory Committee, Cape Story by the Sea, Shore Drive City Coalition, have voted unanimously against the overlay of short-term rental east of the Lesnar Bridge. It was presented at a back meeting, I believe, in November by Lewis Jones and Jim Wood, and got a lot of feedback that the neighborhoods and the civic organizations were not in favor of these overlay short-term rentals. Jim Wood continued with his proposal for the overlay. Lewis Jones withdrew his. The neighborhood is very much opposed to the short-term rentals. We have the Delta Hotel, we have the State Park that can provide short-term rentals, if you want to phrase it that way. We are a very busy highway, Shore Drive, between two military bases. And the gentleman that spoke before me, the reason I'm still here is as a young pharmacy student in 72, we were given a rental home in Cape Story by the Sea on the Chesapeake Bay. And we worked at Bill Detterman's Bayside Pharmacy up there near Pleasure Heights Road. And I came back in 76 and stayed. And I think there are a lot of people that do that. And I think we have a marvelous city that entices people to come to a different type of beach and community. And I hate to see it ruined by short-term rentals. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. The next speaker is Gail Johnson, followed by Elaine Frequette. Ms. Johnson, please start your comment.
Hi, my name's Gail Johnson. My dad's family moved to 81st Street in 1933, and weekly summer rentals have been a part of our neighborhood since my childhood. Since 2012, I've been renting my parents' home in the North End as an STR. That allows me to preserve this historic register property. I have never had a complaint. In fact, my neighbors enjoy meeting my guests. Right now, these STRs are creating a much needed revenue stream for the city when many people prefer the isolation of a home rather than sharing space and recirculating air in a hotel. I'm chiefly concerned about three areas of the proposals. First, I'm against the overlay districts because concentrating short-term rentals in only 3 areas while denying them in other parts of the city creates problems by creating too many STRs in the overlay areas while infringing on property rights of responsible homeowners in other areas. And lots of visitors come to visit family in areas not near the beach. They want to be in other places. So maybe just limit the number of STRs per block or per area. Also, the proposed change to 52 contracts a year could really negatively impact beach neighborhoods by encouraging shorter summer rentals. So please specify no more than 2 per week. The second thing that really concerns me is the quotas. Specifying 2 adults per bedroom will impact the multi-generational families who are the bulk of the STRs in the North End. They want young cousins to share a bedroom and give adults some privacy. So most STRs have historically accommodated that preference. Just leave it as it's currently configured. Don't mess with it. Also, the gathering quota. Nobody wants a party house. But families often come here to be with their local members of the family. So don't outlaw family gatherings that would have more than the renters in the space. Somehow that needs to be accommodated. Lastly, please consider a safety issue that is not currently being addressed. Local dog owners want STRs and hotels that allow dogs to post the info about our local laws about dogs on the beach. In 2018, the city attorney and the city council approved a condensed version, which is currently posted at residential beach access points. We ask that the city require that to be posted in STRs and hotels that allow dogs. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Johnson. The next speaker is Elaine Frequette, followed by Thomas LoPresti. Ms. Frequette, please start your comment. Looks like Ms. Frequette just disconnected, so we're going to move on to the next speaker. The next speaker is Thomas LoPresti, followed by Maggie Chapman. Mr. LoPresti, please start your comment.
Hi, this is Tom LoPresti. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. Please start your comment.
Excellent. I am a pro short-term rental by right, which means I don't think the government or the city should be infringing on that at all in any respect. Specifically, an example of that would be the Planning Commission's decision, I think it was last year, to somehow limit the occupancy of short-term rentals with the number of cars. So what you did is you went out there, you said 1 car per bedroom, and that car must fit on a driveway, and that dimension is whatever it is. And so what ended up happening is people, because we want to comply, we want to do what's right, we went out there and we said, okay, my driveway is not big enough. So we started extending our driveway, making it bigger. Well, now it's got to be permeable versus non-permeable. It's got to have all these different things. And those things weren't really thought through completely. And that's the problem with making these recommendations and changes, is those unintended consequences. You had a beautiful 2-car driveway, but because it has 3 or 4 bedrooms, they had to make it a 4-car driveway, which infringed on that curb appeal of their house and made it look, not as inviting. There was just like a lot of things that didn't happen that really necessarily didn't need to happen because of this unintended consequence of this rule that you guys wanted to put in. And I feel like a lot of times the commission takes what the council says and goes, oh, well, this is what the council wants, so I guess this will work. And then the council turns around and says, see, the planning commission agrees with us, so, let's do this. And there's no really evidence towards, getting the things done. It's all kind of this emotionally based thing. The evidence against short-term rentals is anecdotal at best. I mean, it just is. We all know that, and I get it. People don't want to live next to, bad neighbors, but their bad neighbors exist. They definitely exist in long-term rentals. What makes a short-term rental a short-term rental? 3 days, 7 days, a month, 6 months, a year? Like what's that magic number? And how'd you come up with that? I don't understand that. I've had some long-term renters for a year that have been horrible, and then you can't get rid of them. At least short-term rentals is very short-term. You get them for a short time, and they're, if there's an incident, you take care of it, and they're gone in a few days. We already have rules and regulations in place. My rights end where yours begin, and I respect that with my neighbors. I don't allow parties. I don't allow smoking. I don't allow anything that's going to infringe on my neighbors. But my right as a homeowner is to do what I want with my property, and I would appreciate it if you guys kept that. The last thing is I'm a 32-year Army veteran, and back in the 90s when General Schwarzkopf came to speak to us, he made a great statement that resonated with me, and I hope you guys take that to heart. Don't make a rule or regulation or give an order. People aren't going.
Thank you for your comment, sir. The next speaker is Maggie Chapman, followed by Patricia Hall. Ms. Chapman, please start your comment. Ms. Chapman has disconnected. The next speaker is Patricia Hall, followed by Paige Mayores. Ms. Hall, please start your comment.
Yes, this is Patricia Hall. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please start your comment.
Thank you for having me. First of all, I oppose amending Section 102 City Zoning Ordinance establishing the proposed 4 short-term rental overlay districts. Our daughter and family live in Virginia Beach. Last year, we decided to purchase a second home close to our daughter and her family. We intentionally purchased a home located in an area that currently allows short-term rentals. Because we are retired and on a fixed income, we thought it a good idea to make our Virginia Beach home a short-term rental in the summer season to help minimize the cost of owning a second home. My daughter and son-in-law will be the property managers and only live 2 blocks from our home, making them available at all times if ever an emergency occurs. They will be vetting and watching over the renters. We also got approvals from both of our next door neighbors. We don't think it's fair that short-term rentals would not be permitted outside of the proposed overlay districts unless they can obtain 60% of the owners to agree to the request for that proposed additional district. Did 60% of the owners in the city of the proposed overlay districts agree to have those areas approved for SDRs. I feel it would be more fair to keep the current short-term rental ordinance with the conditional use permit process. I think the enhancements and additional changes the council is considering, such as a hotline, monitor rental activity, and an inspection staff, would allow the existing ordinance to function effectively. That's all I have to say, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker is Paige Mayores, followed by Elaine Fricette. Ms. Mayores, please start your comment.
It's me, Mayores, Paige Mayores. Thank you, and thank you for having me. I own Atkinson Realty, and we've been in business since 1943. And part of our business has been managing short-term rentals since the 50s. And we've always had responsible owners. We've always had staff on call to manage these rentals. The current proposal that's on the table gives me some consternation because I feel like the city is not really looking at the big picture of what they're creating, trying to eliminate short-term rentals in much of the city, including some of our historically neighborhoods that have had historically short-term rentals in it, such as Croatan and Old Beach. The only thing that it's going to accomplish is that they're going to go underground. The city's not going to benefit from the tax revenue. They're not going to be able to find them. And that one of our huge economic engines in the city. And so I really idea of shutting them down there, and I to consider all the benefits that these short-term rentals bring to our city, as far as visitors, as far as tourism, as far as the hotel, as far as the restaurants, and as far as the hotel. The reality is that not everyone wants to stay in a hotel, and these provide housing for families, and especially in the COVID world that we live in, families are more comfortable in homes. And so I oppose the measure that's on the table, and I think we need to look at the bigger picture when it comes to these. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker, Elaine Fricette, got disconnected, so we're going to move on to the next speaker, Maggie Chapman. Ms. Chapman, please start your comment.
Hi, this is her assistant, Jessica. She's actually not available at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that's all the speaker we have for this item.
Okay, thank you all. So I know we talked about this in the informal about making this an indefinite deferral, but we made, after talking with staff, we're going to do 30 days because we are going to hear this in March. If everybody's okay with that, this is going to be a 30-day deferral. So in that case, we have 2 items to be deferred, items 10 for a 30-day deferral and items 11 for a 30-day deferral, correct? No, I'm sorry. Item number 10 is a definite deferral, and item number 11 is a 30-day deferral. So do I have a motion for that, please?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for agenda item 10 for an indefinite deferral and agenda item 11 for a 30-day deferral.
Great. Do we have a second? Second by Mrs. Klein. Okay, we have a.
Chairman, I'd like to make a statement on this motion.
Okay.
I understood we were going to defer it so that we'd have an opportunity to have an in-person meeting for this purpose, for this particular overlay discussion and the other discussions about these ordinances. Are we going to be able to do that in March?
We were going to have a virtual workshop before our March hearing, I believe, right? We talked about a virtual workshop like we did last time.
Okay, I'm asking about, we're talking about deferring the hearing on these ordinances until March, indefinitely, or till for 30 days, you just said. Okay, are we going to be able to have an in-person hearing in March?
Yes, sir. Mr. Inman, the plan is that we will have in-person public comment at the March 10th Planning Commission public hearing.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, just to clarify for the motion, the short-term rental ordinance proposals, item number 11, instead of saying 30 days, the item will be continued or deferred to the Planning Commission agenda that is dated March 10th, 2021.
Okay. All right. So we have Jack Wall made a motion and Robin Klein has a second. Ready for a vote?
If you're in favor of the motion, say yes. And if you're opposed, say no. Mr. Alcaraz?
Aye.
Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Mr. Costin?
Aye.
Mr. Graham? Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Horsley?
Aye.
Mr. Inman? Mr. Inman?
Mike, yeah.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Klein?
Aye.
Mr. Redmond?
Aye.
Ms. Oliver is absent. Mr. Wall?
Aye.
And Chairman Weiner?
Aye.
By a recorded vote of 10 for and 0 against, agenda item 10 has been indefinitely deferred, and agenda item number 11 has been deferred for 30 days.
Thank you, Mrs. Coleman. The next order of business is the consent agenda, and this will be handled by the Vice Chair, Commissioner Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These applications that are recommended for approval by staff and the Planning Commission concurred. There are no speakers signed up in opposition. The Planning Commission places the following applications on the consent agenda. Agenda item number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 7, number 8, and number 9. The Planning Commission also places the following applications for a conditional use permit for short-term rental on the consent agenda as they meet the applicable requirements for section 241.2 of the zoning ordinance. Staff and the Planning Commission supports the applications, and there are no speakers signed up in opposition. Items 15, 17, and 18.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Can we give a motion for those items, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that agenda items number 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 15, 17, and 18 be approved by consent.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Mr. Wall and a second by Mr. Horsley. Ready for the vote?
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, I'm sorry, for items number 3 and 4, there are amended conditions that remove the requirement that this only go with with the operator. So we are clearing that up.
Okay.
If you're in favor of the motion, say yes, and if you're opposed, say no. Mr. Alcaraz?
Aye.
Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Mr. Costin?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Horsley?
Aye.
Mr. Inman?
Aye.
Ms. Klein?
Aye.
Mr. Redmond?
Aye.
Mrs. Oliver is absent. Vice Chair Wall
Aye.
and Chairman Weiner.
Aye.
By a recorded vote of 10 for and 0 against, agenda items 2, 3 with the removal of condition number 4, 4 with the removal of condition number 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 15, 17, and 18 have been recommended for approval on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Goldman. The next order of business is the regular agenda, and staff will take this on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 6 items on today's regular agenda. The first item is agenda number 1, the application of North Legend Outfitters LLC for a conditional use permit request for home occupation for the sales of firearm. The property is located at 1017 Dorforth Mill in the Lynn Haven district. The applicant is Benjamin Lindborn. Mr. Lindborn, you have 10 minutes to speak. Please start your comments.
Thank you, sir. First and foremost, I'd like to say that this is a business that I have been running for the previous 4 years out of Virginia Beach under the same conditional use permit at our previous address in the Lake Shores neighborhood. We did initially have some of the same similar concerns in the beginning. As I understand, that orange sign comes across as a bit intimidating, but we did operate for 4 years with 0 issues from the neighborhood, the city, the state, or the ATF. I actually do have a letter of recommendation and support on file from my previous next door neighbor who has teenage boys and a family there. So he voiced his support, and I believe he signed up for the meeting here as well. I already do have an established business license with the city and state of Virginia, an FFL with the ATF, and an account and relationship with the Virginia State Police for my previous 4 years of experience. I underwent a stringent vetting process with both the FBI and the ATF in order to be even considered for the license. From those previous 4 years of experience, I've got a pretty clear understanding of all the rules and practices that go along with running a tightly regulated and responsible firearms business that produced 0 issues over those 4 years. I only work on a very small scale and kind of by appointment only. I work only with highly trained, qualified individuals of the military that I have extremely high confidence in already that they will pass the background check before I ever even invite them to my home. So this is not something that people can walk in off the street. I am the only employee of the business and the only one with access to the safe, the firearms, or the ability to run those background checks for the business. Some months I have as many as 0 customers. So some months I don't do anything. And some months I have as few as 4. All right. And that is the limit imposed under the conditional use permit. And that is perfectly acceptable with the way the business runs. On average, people stay less than 20 minutes. Parking for all customers during their brief stay is instructed to be in our driveway and not on the public road. It is not my full-time job, as I work for the full-time for the U.S. Navy in a job that does require expert level training in firearms, as well as a vetting from the Navy that includes high-level security clearances on myself as well. As far as the business, all items are stored in a plate steel safe, highly comparable to the safes that banks use to secure large amounts of cash. So the storage is highly secured and pretty impenetrable without sophisticated professional tools and an extended amount of time to work on breaking into that safe. Once that orange sign, the permitting sign, is taken down here after the meeting, there's going to be nothing visibly perceptible from the street to suggest any sort of business exists on the property. We value our privacy and discretion that goes along with keeping the neighborhood a quiet and pleasant place to live, with annually increasing property values as well. So operation of the business will be completely seamless and unnoticeable to the normal quiet and peaceful pattern of life in the neighborhood. There's going to be no signs, there are no advertisements, no marketing of any kind in the neighborhood, or any desire for increased market share above the 4 allotted customers per month. It is not open to walk-ins. It is, again, by appointment only, and only by people that I have vetted previously through work and through the military. We only plan on utilizing about 100 square feet of an almost 6,000 square foot dwelling, so only about 2% of that floor. Really, all the business consists of is that high security safe, a computer, and a printer to run those background checks and keep the required documentation. There is no industrial machinery or equipment that would create any noise, no dust, no vibrations, smell, smoke, glare, electrical interference in the neighborhood, fire hazards, or any other kind of nuisance. There's no increased delivery traffic to the neighborhood. All packages that are required, or all packages that are sent require an adult signature and are picked up directly at the UPS location, also designated on my current federal firearms license that is approved by the ATF and does still require that adult signature. So trucks never enter the neighborhood, and under no circumstances are delivery services allowed to leave a package on the porch with restricted items in them. Firearms are never loaded or fired on the premises in any manner. Again, it's mostly a pass-through entity that is mostly clerical and administrative in nature. The firearms that are carried in and out of the business are carried in and out in discrete manufacturer's packaging or secured cases. Open firearms are never brandished or visible to the community at large. Customers coming, park in the driveway, and every portion of the transaction, to include the loading of merchandise into their vehicle, is done on the premises. We do have a current electronic security system that we are planning to upgrade to a state-of-the-art one for its monitoring capabilities. And we also plan to consult with the Virginia Beach Police Department Crime Prevention Unit as soon as the Planning Commission comes up with its recommendation to have the Police Department do an assessment of the house and recommend any further recommendations to increase security at the property. I'm fully available to answer any questions at this time, either by email, on the phone, or in person, to alleviate any more concerns anybody could have. Again, I'm fully open and honest about everything I'm doing, and we're just trying to do this the right way and not hide it from anybody. I'm not trying to make anybody uncomfortable or feel threatened in any way. I know the big orange sign is kind of scary, but it's really a lot less scary in actuality than it seems. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair, we have 3 speakers signed up to speak on this item. However, only one is online at this time. And that speaker is Brooke Lindborn. Ms. Lindborn, please start by saying your name for the comments, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Dr. Lindborg, Dr. Brooke Lindborg. I am Ben's wife and the co-owner of 1017 Dartford Mews. So Ben's been operating North Legend Outfitters for the past 4 years from our home in the Lakeshore neighborhood of Virginia Beach, and there's been not a single complaint. Once the orange sign comes down, there will be no perceptible difference in our neighborhood from before the sign was put up, and this should be no different than the other multiple small businesses that are already run from the homes in that neighborhood. You know, we've spoken with our neighbors on Dartford Mews, the ones who have taken the time to get to know us over the past 7 to 8 months, and they've been overwhelmingly supportive of this endeavor. Ultimately, Ben's a good person and upstanding citizen. He's a member of the U.S. military, and I'm one of the emergency room physicians here locally in Virginia Beach. And we're hard workers. We love our community and we love our neighborhood, and we hope that this is a service that Ben can continue to provide. Thank you.
No more speakers?
There are no more speakers.
Does anybody have any questions for the Lindberghs? No questions? Oh, Whitney?
I do, yes. So my question is, and I received a call earlier during our informal session from someone in the neighborhood, and I don't know how close they live to you, but they had concern that some of the firearms are actually being delivered to the house, and but you touched on it earlier that they're not delivered, or is it that they're not delivered, or they're not delivered and left on the front steps like a typical FedEx package? Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, sir. I do have a separate mailing address listed on the FFL as allowable by the ATF. Packages are directed towards the UPS destination where they sign from there, and I go and pick them up by signature after the fact. So nothing ever is left on the porch at the house that would contain a restricted item.
Okay, is that a FTS? I mean, is that a whose rule is that? Is that a federal rule?
Yes, that is on my actual federal firearms license, that I have a premises address and a mailing address that can be separate.
Okay. All right. I don't really have any other questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindborg. We're going to close this and open it up to discussion. Mr. Graham, this is your area.
It sounds like the applicant has been operating this business and for 4 years, different residents, did not have any issues. None of the adjacent neighbors have opposed this. Even it's my understanding that none of the adjacent neighbors or anybody on the street that he lives on even opposed it. So I'm in favor of approval of this application, but I'd like to hear the other commissioners' comments.
Robin?
When I first saw this application, I got a little bit nervous. I have a young child, and working in the PICU, I've seen what misuse of firearms can do. And I read the concern expressed by the around the corner neighbor. It sounds like this applicant knows what he's doing. And he previously operated his business at their other home. Congratulations on your new home. He takes what he's doing very seriously and understands the impact it might have on the surrounding neighbors. And it sounds like this business is going to be more discreet than some of the other at-home businesses we've approved. And so I do intend to support this application, and I thank him for his diligence and his safety.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? How about a motion?
Chairman Weiner, I'd like to motion that we approve the application.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion for approval by Commissioner Graham and a second by Commissioner Klein. Ready for the vote.
If you're in favor of the motion, say yes. And if you're opposed, say no. Mr. Alcaraz?
Aye.
Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Mr. Costin?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Horsley?
Aye.
Mr. Inman?
Aye.
Ms. Klein?
Aye.
Mr. Redmond?
Aye.
Ms. Oliver is absent. Vice Chair Wall?
Aye.
And Chairman Weiner?
Aye.
By recorded vote of 10 for and 0 against, agenda item 1 has been recommended for approval.
Thank you. All right, we can move to item number 6.
Item number 6 is the application of MS Virginia Beach LLC for a modification of proffer for a addition of an apartment building to include 49 units located at 2257 Willow Oak Circle in the Lynn Haven district. The applicant representative is Rob Beeman. Mr. Beeman, you have up to 10 minutes. Please start your comment. Mr. Beeman, please begin your comment. Mr. Beeman, please begin your comment. Mr. Chair, it looks like Mr. Beeman is experiencing technical difficulties and had disconnected. Would you like to move on to the next item
and come back? Yeah, so we're gonna have to come back to this eventually. So we could move on to 12 and 13 and come back. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Item number 12 and 13 is the application of Joseph Lynn Donovan, a conditional use permit request for short-term rental located at 525 13th Street for units A and B in the Beach District. Excuse me 1 second. The applicant is Erica Atkins. Ms. Atkins, please start your comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Erica Atkins, and I'm representing Joseph Lane Donovan's property located at 525 13th Street, A and B. I've not received any complaints referencing this permit request. I have proactively reached out to planning to stay informed of any emails or letters submitted with concerns, but again, there is no opposition on record at this point with them. A letter of recommendation has been submitted for reference in this property's file. As far as I've been informed, that is the only item currently on file. This property's location makes it a suitable short-term rental for vacationing families, and it fits with the neighborhood's oceanfront character. There are long-term tenants currently residing in these units at this time. The owner does have plans to renovate the property prior to utilizing it for short-term rentals. In regards to the 3-foot driveway extension for the parking requirement, the owner has agreed to either pour a 3-foot addition in broom brushed concrete that matches the apron or install a pervious surface. Either solution is acceptable to him. The current apron does not match the existing driveway due to the city replacing it. They poured a different color concrete than the existing driveway at the time of the replacement. Matching concrete poured decades ago is practically impossible, as we all know. He's also agreed that if planning decides on a pervious surface, he will try to find an attractive way to meet that requirement. I just wanted to add that the owner is a 22-year real estate agent, primarily focused on properties in the surrounding oceanfront area. He also has over 15 years of short-term rental management experience, which should ease some concerns with any management-related issues. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other speakers?
Mr. Chair, there are no other speakers on this item.
All right, Mrs. Klein, comment?
I have a question. What is to happen of the current long-term renters if the application is approved?
Ma'am, are you still online?
I am.
Ms. Atkins?
The current tenants do know that there's an orange sign out in the front yard, and the owner has spoken with them. He's not evicting them by any means. That's why it's not a huge rush to him for the permit. But when they do exit, he does want to transition into the short-term rental, and that's why he's acquiring the permit now.
Okay, any other questions, Mrs. Atkins? Any questions? All right, thank you, Mrs. Atkins. All right, we'll close this and open this up for us. Mr. Alcarez.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I did get a call that someone was been trying to get in, but I don't know what happened. It was an adjacent property owner. But I did receive some emails. I think all of you were on those emails. I did try and find some while we were on the virtual. I found 2. I sent them to Mr. Donovan. I know Mr. Donovan personally. I did send them to him. I thought I had some more. I just didn't have time to find them. I'm hoping that you guys did see those and were you able to get those. But again, with the calls I've received and also the emails, and I fully understand the whole aspect of getting property, but it's the quiet enjoyment of the neighbors that concern me. You know, one comment that was just said on the resolution, one comment that one of the speakers said, he hit the nail on the head. He said, you know, if there's an issue, they'll take care of it and then they'll move on to the next. Well, that's what the adjacent property owner has to deal with. Yes, they move on to the next. So with the opposition that I received by phone calls, and I thought I had more emails, and I think I received them. I'm not sure why the staff didn't get those, but I'm not going to be supporting it. But however, I want y'all to discuss it, and we can go from there.
Any other comments? Anybody? No comments? Well, this one's hard for me because I'm sitting here looking.
I lost my connection. Yeah.
Oh, David, we can't hear you.
Gone. Oh, it's back.
Trying to get Mr. Weiner hooked back up. Sorry.
Here we go. Are we good? Can you hear me now? Okay. Got to watch these buttons. These buttons are over here. Anyway, I'm sitting here looking at this on Google Maps, and this is a hard one for me because it's right at the beach, 13th Street, Mediterranean. I understand it's in a neighborhood, and we're trying to keep them out of neighborhoods. I'm reluctant to agree with Mr. Alcarez, but I'm going to, and I'm not going to support this one. It's going to be hard for me to support this one. But I would like to hear from other people going forward. This is going to be a touchy area, and want to hear what y'all have to say. Anybody? Good, Whitney.
Chairman Weiner, I will not be supporting it as well.
Okay. Nobody wants to talk about a motion?
I've got another question.
Okay, sure.
Does staff have any complaints from short-term rentals in the area? Or how many are in the area?
It's on them.
Do we?
We haven't gotten any complaints for this particular address. As you can see on the map, which was updated rather recently, but those are the other ones that we know of. I have to actually look into the different streets to see what kind of complaints we have on all those different streets, to see if there's any short-term rental complaints.
Okay, thank you.
Robin?
It looks like, and Will, please confirm this, that one of the adjacent properties was denied a short-term rental application also?
It was, and that was, Summer, are you still on here? Because I think that was your case, and I think you might have some better information on that. She might have left.
I'm here, Will. Yes, you're correct. This one was actually Kevin Hirschberger's from last year. It was Josetta Danner, and it was denied because they were operating prior to their conditional use permit being approved. Adjacent property owners had complained about loud noises, and there was a zoning complaint on that specific one, which is why it was denied, because they were operating and that there were also complaints. But we don't have any on this address, at least within this block. None. At least none that are recent. I can't speak for perhaps the entire area of this map, but at least for the immediately adjacent block, this block, we don't have any.
Thank you, Summer. Thank you, Summer. I knew your memory was fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Mr. Redmond?
Yeah, I'd be more comfortable if somebody could give me an actual reason for opposing this. I mean, other than to say, somebody complained or this is sensitive, that's the entire issue. Is a difficult issue. So I'm looking for a particular reason that this particular short-term rental is objectionable. I haven't heard it yet. So that's my view.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I understand what Dave's saying. I'm looking at this. It's not, there's not a real proliferation of short-term rentals in that area yet. It's an area that we're seriously considering having an overlay by right, isn't it? Not in there, or is it?
It's out of the overlay by right. It's not in the OR or the RT district. That's why I was personally thinking that, in my opinion. But anyway, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Well, that's important because I frankly didn't realize that. Okay, it is east of Mediterranean Avenue, and that's been a sort of a criteria, but it isn't OR. It's not RT. Okay, so that makes me think more about it. I mean, it is sort of in the resort area. I understand it's also a neighborhood. That's what makes it tough. If we're going to have short-term rentals at all, you would think this particular property would qualify. I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it, and I don't see a really good reason to deny it. So I would have to support it.
Per usual, Mike said it better than I did.
And I'm going to chime in again, Mike, and I'm with you. I'm sitting here looking at it on Google Maps, and it looks like to me it would be a perfect place for a short-term rental to beach, but it's not being consistent in what we've been talking about. It's not in the areas where we want them. And my personal opinion is I'm going to be consistent with what we've been talking about. So that's where I stand with that. Jack, did you have your hand up?
I did, yeah. So in terms of, consistency, if it's in a neighborhood, then is that what we're looking at? Maybe outside the overlay districts that are proposed at this point, or is it, because I want to be consistent too. And now I find a hard time finding a specific reason. So I think a lot of the other ones that we looked at, we've had specific reasons for denial. I don't know about this one. I think that, density wise, if it's in an area where we have been denying them, then that's one thing. For a set of precedents, that's another. But that's my take on it.
Okay, Mr. Redmond?
Yeah, I'm going to go back on what I said earlier and beat the dead horse again about that's why this stuff belongs in the ordinance. If you want to be consistent, then you write it into the law. And we not think every time one of these things comes up that we got to scratch our heads and try and figure out what we did the last time. And I mean, I think Mike put it best. It looks to me like a short-term rental property. Folks, if there's more than one house on a street, it's a neighborhood. This idea that, well, this is in a neighborhood, the entire city is a neighborhood. So, I mean, everything that we've discussed, in this entire context has been about neighborhoods. I can't find anything unique or remarkable about this as a short-term rental. It's in a neighborhood. They're all in neighborhoods. And if we want to be consistent about things, then I think we ought to be as specific as we can in the ordinance about it and not have this conversation with every single application that comes up. So anyway, I'm going to support it. And sorry to beat the dead horse again.
My daughter stayed a block over in a short-term rental last month, and it does appear like there's more than a couple there, and it looks like it fits the application to me. I'd support it as well.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I got one thing, Mr. Weiner.
Okay.
So one thing that I just want to note, again, I thought some of the opposition would be voicing their opinion, but one comment was made. I actually met one of the residents out there, and just wanted y'all to know, it kind of called me on the spot, but I was asked, would I live next to a short-term rental? I didn't answer him. I said, it's something we think about. So I just wanted you to know that question was asked, would I live next to one? So having said that, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we deny the application for the short-term rental.
A motion for denial. Do you have a second?
I second.
I have a motion by Mr. Alcarez for denial, second by Mr. Graham. Okay, ready for the vote?
If you're in favor of a motion, say yes, and if you're opposed, say no. And this motion is to deny the application. Mr. Alcaraz?
Aye.
Mr. Barnes? Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Mr. Costin?
No.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Horsley?
Aye.
Mr. Inman? Mr. Inman?
You're muted, Mike.
Mr. Inman?
I think he's saying no.
No, 7 times.
No.
Thank you. Ms. Klein?
Aye.
Mr. Redmond?
No.
Ms. Oliver is absent. Vice Chair Wall?
No.
And Chairman Weiner?
Aye.
By recorded vote of 6-4 and 4 against, agenda item number 12 and 13 have been denied, recommended for denial.
Okay. All right. Can we go back to item number 6 to see if Mr. Beeman's available?
Yes, sir. Item number 6 is the application of MS Virginia Beach LLC. Rob Beeman is the applicant representative. Mr. Beeman, please start by your comment, and you have 10 minutes.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Rob Beeman. I'm a local land use attorney with the Troutman Pepper Law Firm, here today on behalf of the applicant, MS Virginia Beach LLC. This application involves the existing Marina Shores apartments, which are located at the intersection of North Great Neck Road.
Yeah, Mr.
Beeman, can we stop for just a minute? We can barely hear you.
Yeah. Can you step
sorry about
closer to that telephone, or?
Sorry, is that a little bit better?
That's getting worse.
Is it a little bit better now?
There we go. Perfect.
Oh, great. Thank you, and I apologize for all these audio challenges. Just to pick off where I left off, this application involves the existing Marina Shores apartments at the intersection of Great Neck Road and Lynn Haven Drive, which were originally developed back in the late 1980s. The site currently has tennis courts located in the southwestern corner of the property that are rarely utilized by the current tenants. And because of the significant demand and the popularity of the complex, the applicant utilized this portion of the site for an additional residential building. The applicant proposes a single additional building containing 49 units that would be designed to closely match the existing buildings in the development in terms of style, colors, and materials. It's important to note that even with the addition of the proposed building, the site will still remain well under the permitted density and impervious area requirements under the applicable zoning classification. Another key component that I wanted to mention of this project is that in addition to providing parking for the proposed new building, this project would also add additional parking throughout the apartment complex to bring it into conformance with the current code regulations. Since it was built back in the 1980s, it's currently non-conforming with respect to parking, and this project will help address that. The applicant worked closely with the Bayfront Advisory Commission and its design review committee on this application. We met with those folks twice, and we appreciate the time they spent with us and the comments we received during that process. As Jonathan mentioned during the informal session, the applicant made several significant changes to its plans in response to comments received from the BAC. One of those involved increasing the building setbacks along the intersection of Great Neck and Lynn Haven so that more of the existing mature tree stand along Great Neck could be saved. That tree save area is shown on the landscape plan that we submitted with our application, and also on BAC when we met with them. And then I shared with Mr. Inman earlier today. And I don't know if Juan and Jonathan had that exhibit available. I emailed it to them between the informal and the formal just to make sure they had that. But generally it shows that the applicant intends to save nearly all of the existing trees along Great Neck. There are a couple, as you can kind of see on this exhibit, where they get pretty close to the limits of clearing for the parking area. And so there are a couple of trees that, whether or not they can be saved, depend on final engineering, but the majority of those along Great Neck will be saved. Finally, we understand the planning department has received a couple of notes from several folks over the last several days expressing general concerns about the existing traffic at the intersection of Great Neck and Lynn Haven. Regarding the traffic, I think it's important to note that as reflected in the staff report, the proposed building will generate a very low amount of additional traffic, which I understand doesn't meet the city's threshold for a traffic study here. Additionally, as Jonathan pointed out during the informal session, we understand that the traffic engineering department had a chance to review this application and did not have any concerns that they expressed to the planning staff. So in summary, the proposed building has been designed to be compatible with the surrounding land uses in the existing apartment complex and has received a positive recommendation from both the planning staff and the Bayfront Advisory Commission. We certainly appreciate your time and consideration of this application, and we'll stand by for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Beeman. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Beeman? No questions? All right. Well,
We have one speaker for this item, Mr. Todd Solomon.
I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Somebody want a question?
Oh, hey, David, this is Jack.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jack. I didn't see you. Where are you?
I didn't. I had my mute on. I do have a question. Can you, Mr. Beeman, can you describe the landscaping plan? So the trees that are on Lynn Haven Road, I guess those are going to be taken down. Is that correct? Because I think there's an existing stand of trees along the roadway.
There are a couple that we believe we can save there, but you see the geometry is a little bit more difficult along Lynn Haven Road. There's a roadway, an internal roadway that kind of bends around the eastern side of the new building and forces that corner in the parking area further towards Lynn Haven. We have a full 30-foot setback off of the road, but we do need parking there. So there will be a couple of trees that need to come down there.
Are those trees? So those trees aren't in the right of way. Those are actually on the property of Marina Shores.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yep, because one of the, I just want to state one of the comments or one of the, from the letters was that these apartments are going to be overlooking the existing homes on the other side of Lynn Haven Road. So it's just anything that was, I guess the street trees that are proposed over time will grow up and need to provide screening in that case.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And the other thing I wanted to point out, you'll see at the corner on this landscape plan, there's a broad area above that concept plant schedule. That is a city pump station. So the entirety of that area of the property is not occupied by homes, and that's a considerable amount of the space directly across. The only other thing I'll point out is this building should be identical in scale to the one just to the south of it. So the same type of building, same scale. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? All right, well.
We have one speaker on this item, Todd Solomon. Mr. Solomon, please start your comments. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Weiner and Commission members again.
Mr. Solomon, your microphone is really low. Can you speak louder, please?
Okay. Is that any better? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Getting better. Getting better.
Yeah. Let me stick my mouth right on the microphone there. All right. So the first issue I have is with the staff report mentioning that the Shore Drive Community Coalition had no concerns in regards to this project. We did present, or we did question at the BAC's meeting these two specific concerns that I'm going to talk about here. So I think you need to change that, or at least have a better idea when your staff reports that. The first item of concern that we brought up is the traffic impact. I know traffic studies or traffic engineering said they had no issues. I mean, their evaluation was the volume that's on North Great Neck Road, and that's not a concern. Obviously, 12,000 more cars, 400 trips per day is a drop in the bucket. But the question there is the intersection and the fact that that's a bad intersection, and we've historically stated it's a bad intersection. Planning Commission, City Council have approved the Pearl, which is 200 and some plus apartments. You're doing another 50 apartments here, along with Long Creek Cove, Marina Shores apartments, and then across the street, the Arbors. You're talking potentially 6,000 or 7,000 trips per day at that intersection. And yet we haven't seen a study from the city, a traffic study done. We don't know what the limit is. You keep saying it's not a limit, but there is no limit produced. So we'd ask that you do a limit study on that, because as you keep increasing densities, at some point it's going to trip, and we don't know what it is, and it makes no sense to us. So that's one issue. And the second one is the density, the increased density. We understand that you're approving densities, spot zoning. You've done Westminster Canterbury at 255%. You've done Windsong at 58%. We understand the way you guys are. It's now open season for increased densities through the Planning Commission and City Council. The difference on this one is that you're going to violate proffers. So the Pandora's box of proffers, we're interested to see if you approve this, does that mean proffers are worthless? They're meaningless. If one council and one planning commission approves a proffer, the next ones that come in, or even the same ones, if they change their minds, or if you're pro-density, who cares about a proffer? It sounds like that's what's going to happen on this one. This thing was proffered back at 24 units, even though it could technically be 36 units per acre, but they proffered it. So it's a restriction they put on themselves. So granted, now they're going to 50 or 49 units, 60. I mean, anything above 0 above that proffer is good for them. It's extra profit for them. So it'll be interesting to see how you guys proceed with this. And is it going to be open season for everywhere else in the city with proffers? Are they meaningless? Is it just whatever developer comes in and shows you that there's an increase in potential profits for the city, and you're going to bow down to that? So that's what we're waiting to see. Granted, 60 units is a drop in the bucket when you just approved the 255% of Westminster Canterbury, but when you stack all these things together, it's a bad trend, and that's our issue on this project, along with all the other ones. And another one in the pipeline is Marlin Bay. So we'll wait to see how you all proceed on this, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Solomon? Okay, thank you. That's all the speakers, Well?
Yes, sir. That's all the speaker we have on this item.
All right, Mr. Beeman, do you have any rebuttal you'd like to talk about?
Can you all hear? Oh, thank you. Can you hear me again?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just a couple of quick comments. With respect to the modification of proffers, this site was originally proffered back in 1987, so approximately 35 years ago. And certainly the city has a modification of proffers application that goes through planning and city council, you know, for situations like this where things change over time. With respect to traffic, as is mentioned in the staff report, this really is a de minimis traffic generator with just 49 units. It's approximately 350 trips together coming and going per day over a 24-hour period and split over 2 access points. So it really will be a de minimis amount of traffic. So those are the 2 things that I wanted to point out.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Beeman? No questions? That's all of our speakers. So we're going to close this and open it up. Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I mean, obviously, we do change proffers from time to time, and sometimes they're proffers that were made recently, and sometimes they're proffers that were made like this years ago. I don't disagree with Mr. Solomon. I mean, I think that intersection, it's a little tricky of an intersection. I think the Pearl dealt with it as well in discussions. But I think, you do see traffic that's coming off of the bridge there as it's heading north on Great Neck Road, that sometimes people do speed up when they're going down. But, this is, I live within walking distance of this property. And this is, I mean, there's hardly anybody ever playing tennis over there, and there's certainly other places to play tennis. It's a very sought after area, and that's why I live over here. It's why Mr. Solomon lives over here. It's why these guys, this developer wants to add more units to this property. I like what it's going to look like. I like that it's going to be consistent. And I also, I mean, we've got capacity in the schools, and it's really not going to add any students And it sometimes is an issue, but in this case, it's really not. You have 49 units. We're going from 24 units to 27 units per acre. It certainly could have been a lot more a long time ago. I'm happy that the applicant worked with the Bayfront Advisory Board and took their comments and actually, they made changes that I think are beneficial to the property, to the community, and I just, I support this project. I think it's I think it's going to be attractive. It's a great use. It's quite frankly, it's an underutilized piece of the property. They're adding parking spaces, which I think is very beneficial. My understanding is, with water retention, I know there's already ponds over there. There's no water retention issue. I'm going to support this project. So nothing further.
Okay.
Robin? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This question may be for Mr. Tahan. If 3 different applications are brought forward for 3 different sites in a similar area, does a traffic consideration take into account just that application, or does it also include the fact that there are other applications or construction in the area?
Thank you, Ms. Klein. That's a very good question. So when these reviews are done for anything that has been approved that has that potential impact, those do get looked at. Now, Rick Lohman, our city traffic engineer, has noted that the study that we've done in time previously didn't warrant any signalized improvements at this intersection, but he has been reviewing each of these as they come through the review process to see if these impacts cause any larger impacts to the system. However, that being said, the city has committed, traffic engineering and public works is committed to doing a study reflecting the current development here and seeing if it warrants for the city to install a traffic signal at this location. And that was provided to that information was shared with the Bayfront Advisory Commission, I believe, in the fall when Public Works was at their meeting last. So,
okay, so the city is conducting that study separate from this applicant.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rubin?
But to be clear, I don't think this required a traffic study. The traffic was essentially, the addition was essentially non-existent with this project. So, I think this is a fairly, inconsequential application. It's a piece of private property with tennis courts on it. Tennis courts are underutilized if used virtually at all. And this is the same kind of development that's on the site today. So this term spot zoning got thrown out rather casually. This is anything but spot zoning. This is a residential development adjacent to residential development in a place where it makes sense. I want to make one point too that that Mr. Solomon kind of touched a nerve with, and that is, there is a lot of this kind of development all over Virginia Beach. Shelter is one of, the human species' greatest needs. And when you see this much demand for this kind of product type, it means within our community, there are a lot of people who need better places to live. And so, no, we don't just turn our backs on the fact that people need more and better places to live. When they get leased up as quickly as these kinds of projects do, it means there is a very serious organic need for housing in our city. I'm going to repeat that. There is a very serious organic need for housing in our community. That's why there is so much pressure on this type of product type. I have been hearing for 20 years that the very next project was going to cause the entire Shore Drive corridor to collapse, right? And rubble and fire, and disease and pestilence. It was all going to go away. It was all just going to be so horrible. And it's never been richer. It's never been in greater demand. And so, you know, the whole sky is falling scenario, I just don't see. This is a very important need within our community, housing. And when we see high quality housing that's proposed, which this is, in my view, unless there's something wrong with it, we ought to hurry to press the button that says yes, because we certainly need it as a community. So I'm certainly going to support a motion if Whitney chooses to make one to support this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wall?
I don't know if anybody can answer this, but in 1987 for the proffers, what was the basis for? Was it just, was that self-imposed, or was that imposed by the city on that property for the proffers?
I will be honest with you, Mr. Wall. I don't believe we know the negotiation process at that time. Typically what happens in these proffers, because the applicant does provide them to us, it more than likely reflected what they were proposing at the time, rather than there being a cap on themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
I just got to tell you, I don't know how to raise my hand on this device that I'm using right
here,
now.
just like that, Mike. I'll see you.
About that. Okay,
like that.
So first thing, I got a question on proffer number 1. Really just kind of curious. It eliminates a proffer number 1 from the original proffers, in that proffer was to use that the property will be developed in compliance with certain paragraphs of the Urban Best Management Practices Handbook. So shall I correctly presume that handbook no longer exists? Is that why it was done? It's a staff question.
That is correct, Mr. Inman.
Okay. All right. I want to acknowledge to Mr. Solomon. I hear what he's saying. Unlike Mr. Redmond's comments, I have a concern about what's going on in the Shore Drive corridor. I think and my vote would reflect it, or would have, but anyway, can't really talk about it. Okay, so there's a lot of things going on that do concern me. This particular application does not, and I'm thankful that the applicant was willing to work to reduce the scale of the building and to save the existing trees. At least nearly all of them, I think, will be saved along Great Neck Road, and consequently, I think this is a reasonable application that should be passed, and I'll support it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Graham, go ahead.
I just want to piggyback on what Commissioner Wall, what he was talking about with the proffers and the time period. I think that and I don't know, I wasn't there then. I was a kid. I lived here in Virginia Beach, but my guess is there really wasn't as much demand in this area as in kind of piggybacking on what Mr. Redmond said. There's a tremendous amount of demand for people, that people want to live in the Shore Drive corridor. It's a great place to live, and this is just to me, this is a building that's going to be very consistent with the rest of the project. And anyway, are there any other commissioners that have anything else?
Any other comments? Anybody? Nope. It's on you, Mr. Graham.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this application.
All right. Do you have a second? Second by Mr. Redmond. We have a motion to approve by Mr. Graham, second by Mr. Redmond. Ready for the vote?
If you're in favor of the motion, say yes. And if you're opposed, say no. Mr. Alcaraz?
Aye.
Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Mr. Costin?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Horsley?
Aye.
Mr. Inman?
Aye.
Ms. Klein?
Aye.
Mr. Redmond?
Aye.
Ms. Oliver is absent. Vice Chair Wall?
Aye.
And Chairman Weiner?
Aye.
By a recorded vote of 10 for and 0 against, agenda item 6 has been recommended for approval.
Thank you. We can move on to item 14.
Before we move on to the next item, can we check user 21? Can you please identify yourself? Caller 21, can you please identify yourself? All right, thank you. The next item is item number 14, the application of Marguerite and AJ Ellis, a conditional use permit request for a 3-bedroom short-term rental located at 5632 Freewell Lane in the Central District. The applicant is Inet Luigi. I'm sorry, Marguerite Ellis. Ms. Ellis, please start your comment.
Good afternoon. This is AJ Ellis. I'm the husband of Marjorie Ellis. I'm the co-owner as well. Basically, we're just looking for the conditional use permit for the STR. Like I said, we believe it'll be a great investment for ourselves and additional income for our family. Basically, we recently just had a daughter. She's 1.5 years, and we want to get ahead and be proactive in her tuition as well for the college. And of course, we all know tuition is not cheap. So the income we receive from the STR will go to that. And like I said, as far as management, we have a management team in place. Actually, they manage the same property. My father's property, he has the STR. He went through the same process we're going through right now in the Glenwood area. And I think they've managed over 14,000 properties, and they have over 700 plus destinations. Me, myself, I have bought and sold and held rental properties in the area, and I've managed them myself until it was sold in 2018.
They're kind of big.
So basically, we're just looking for approval of the STR. Can you hear us?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Oh, okay.
Any questions for Mr. Ellis? Mr. Ellis, I have a question for you. Is this your primary residence?
Correct. At the moment, it is.
Do you plan on living there and doing short-term rentals there as you're living there?
Negative. My wife and I will be moving out, and this will be a full-time.
Full-time short-term rental.
Correct. And we'll still be local. We'll be in the area.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. No more questions? Any more the speakers?
We have one speaker for this item, Kenneth Hux. Mr. Hux, please start your comment. Ken Huck.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please start your comment.
Thank you. My name is Ken Houck, and I'm a board member and president of the Towns at Centerville Crossing Homeowners Association. Our community is made up of 40 townhomes on Freewell Lane, which is a dead-end street 1 block long. There are a total of 9 buildings located on both sides of the street, which have either 4 or 5 townhomes in each building. The HOA conducted a Zoom meeting for the property owners to get their feedback about short-term rentals within the community, as well as another related topic. 85% of the owners that we have spoken to are in opposition to allowing short-term rentals within the community. The reasons stated for this opposition are as follows. The neighborhood is not in a beach or commercial or entertainment area. Short-term renters do not have a vested interest in the community. There's no motivation for them to take care of property or even the shared community property. It would create a transient area within the community. There were concerns that there would be a negative effect on property values. There were safety concerns. Children play in the street, and it would be frequently around people that we do not know. In addition, a single mother expressed her concern for her child's welfare in our community if people were coming and going on a frequent basis. Townhomes do not have a separation between properties, so renters are literally on the other side of the wall. Residents had concerns about parties on balconies at night that would be just feet away from their bedrooms. The way these townhomes are constructed, as you can see from the photo that you have listed, the garage is on the main floor. Directly above it is the balcony, and directly above the balcony is the master bedrooms. Homes would be harder to sell. In the Washington Post dated September 7th, 2016, it states, quote, Fannie Mae will not buy a loan for a property if the building allows units to be rented by the day. In effect, the rule means that buyers in your condo building would become ineligible for a Fannie Mae loan, end quote. These are the reasons for the opposition. These are strongly held beliefs expressed by owners within the community. They want to ensure their quality of life will not diminish in their pursuit of happiness. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions for the speaker? No questions? Okay. Mr. Ellis, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, he was saying as far as kids in the neighborhood, I was on that Zoom meeting for the HOA, and there were a few people complaining about that they do have kids in the area and they won't know who is in and out of the STR. I don't know if you guys are aware, but right behind us, we live next to a 300 unit apartment complex, and we all share the same amenities as far as the pool, fitness center, etc. So again, it's a 300 unit apartment complex, and people are constantly moving out day in and day out. So you just never know who you're living next to regardless.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Ellis? No questions. That's all the speakers?
Yes, sir. That's all the speaker on this item.
All right. We will close it to the public, open up for us. Mrs. Klein?
Thank you. I hear the concerns of the HOA. I live in a connected townhome. So I can certainly appreciate those concerns. I think that there is a need for short-term rentals in other parts of the city, not just along the shoreline. And I hear the residents' concerns, but because there are no direct concerns related to a specific property in their neighborhood, I will support the application.
Okay. Any other comments? No comments? Nobody? I'm gonna go back to where we were being consistent, and it's going to be hard for me to support this one when I can't support one down at the beach. That was out of what we're looking at and what we're trying to do. I'm personally not going to be able to support this one. Anybody else? Ms. Klein, would you like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the application.
All right. We have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion for approval by Mrs. Klein, second by Mr. Costin. Ready for the vote?
If you're in favor of the motion, say yes. And if you're opposed, say no. Mr. Alcaraz?
No.
Mr. Barnes?
No.
Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Mr. Graham?
Nay.
Mr. Horsley?
No.
Mr. Inman?
No.
Ms. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
You're muted, Dave. We couldn't hear you.
Mr. Redmond?
No.
Ms. Oliver is absent. Vice Chair Wall?
Yes.
And Chair Wiener?
No.
By a recorded vote of 7 for and 3 against, agenda items number 14 has been recommended for denial.
Correct. Right. All right. Move on to item number 16.
The last item on today's agenda is the application of Albert and Inette Luchi for a conditional use permit for a short-term rental located at 528 Vanderbilt Avenue in the Beach District. The applicant is Inette Luchi. Ms. Luchi, please start your comments. You have up to 10 minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Hold on 1 second, please.
I'm sorry, Ms. Luchi, if you can hold on one second. Just to be clear, the motion failed on a vote of 4, and 7 against. And I guess I just want to be sure, Ms. Wilson, we don't have to vote again, right? It's just a denial recommendation because of the failed motion for approval?
You're muted.
It should be 7-3. We only have 10 members.
7-3.
I'm sorry.
I figured a math question out.
Okay. So just to be clear for the record, it was 3, 4, 7 against.
Yes.
The motion
failed.
The motion failed, which is a recommendation for denial.
For denial.
Okay.
Mrs. Luchi, I'm sorry, go ahead and please start with your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Planning Commissioner. This is Aniklu Luchi applying for a CAP at 528 Vanderbilt Avenue. Thank you for taking time to listen to our application. It is much appreciated to be given this opportunity to apply for a CAP today. Thank you for your work, made even harder with these virtual meetings now. My husband apologizes. He could not be here due to a looming deadline at work. Mr. Miller and the staff, we have no words to express our gratitude to your professionalism and dedication to the work with us during these 4 long months. Thank you for your help. When we were looking to buy this house in summer of 2020, we had already been enthusiastic Croatan homeowners since 2003, 7 years, and summer vacationers in Croatan since late 20th century. The first time we heard of Croatan was from Atkins Realty, who currently manages our property, while renting a house in the North End. So we decided to give a Croatan oceanfront home a try, and we immediately understood the appeal once we stayed there, fell in love with the neighborhood and neighbors and tiny, quiet public beach with lifeguards, rules, and regulations. We knew right there and then that this is where we want to settle our second home roots. This is since the definition of summer at the beach for us. It is the only beach our kids know. Our primary residence in Virginia, Northern Virginia, and most DC suburbanites indeed consider Delaware and Maryland beaches due to proximity. But a big shout out to the city of Virginia Beach for having us sold on the most amazing family-friendly boardwalk and the most beautiful and vibrant tourist destination city in the Mid-Atlantic with a rich history to boot. Our heart is here and we do not want to ever leave this town. So I have a long list here of why do we love Virginia Beach and Croatan, but I understand time is of the essence. So I'm going to skip those, except for saying that we have been, there are a lot of things that we love in Virginia Beach, but Croatan is the jewel of our heart. We love the neighborhood, we love our neighbors. And so far, we have been enthusiastic Croatan Civic League supporters. What that means is not only do we pay a voluntary membership fee, but also occasionally donate to the Police and Safety Fund so that they can hire a cop to patrol our streets. We have made countless friends here among full-time residents and second homeowners with whom we enjoy summers at the beach. Our children learned to ride their bikes on Vanderbilt Avenue and Croatan and surfed with Croatan kids. Our son's middle school science fair project in 2010 was about the Croatan jetty and erosion. Ready for the Army Corps of Engineers we were. We have enjoyed 4th of July parties here with at the Virginia Dare cul-de-sac with face paint, fire trucks, helicopter parades, free endless margaritas for adults only, I believe, where our kids even won a purple peanut, Easter egg hunt, national night out, you name it. We are ourselves part of a Croatan community and are vested emotionally to see it thrive and flourish. Basically, that was a very long way of saying that we do care about and are not just financially, but most importantly, emotionally invested in Croatan and the whole Virginia Beach. All this is part of our life, and we are committed to preserve the image of Virginia Beach and specifically Croatan as a beautiful vacation place for families. We are committed to having families vacation here, be impressed with Croatan and Virginia Beach, and ultimately, like us, buy their own second home here. And our guests too, which you can see in the packet from their letters, they did rent our first home and they bought a new house here. a good vacation home in Croatan, and I will never ever call or consider it a business. It's just a vacation home. It's a great asset to Croatan. It's a great asset to Virginia Beach at large. You got nothing to be afraid of decent, hardworking U.S. families, their kids here year after year, loving the city and settling their own second or retiring home roots here when the time comes. And we are committed to respect the quiet residential nature of the neighborhood and our neighbors' right to peaceful enjoyment of their property. But by living here, we got a better understanding on what exactly we needed and wanted in a beach home. Third floor living, sufficient number of bedrooms and bathrooms, decks, and preferably more ocean views. Hence, we bought this house. Really, we were looking for a grandfather property to buy. However, by the time we got ourselves pre-approved for financing, yes, we do have a mortgage, and as we found out, it's not as easy as it was before 2008 to pre-qualify. Any and all grandfather properties in Croatan in our price range magically disappeared from the market at full price or higher, even though they were not necessarily in a turnkey condition. Our house of 528 Vanderbilt was never rented, hence it's not grandfather's property. It's a beautiful home. We love it. It works perfectly for us as a second home and later will be our retirement home. It does have indeed all of the things that we're looking for in a house, but it has sat in the market for more than 8 months because it was not a grandfathered property. And we got a great deal that pleased us from the sellers. We're selling it for a considerably lower price than what they paid for 15 years ago. We didn't think that the house not being grandfathered would be an issue or give us headaches anyway. When we put the contract in mid-July, the proposal on the city website had Croatan, or at least the three streets closest to the ocean, as part of the overlay district. Having been here forever, essentially, we know how Croatan has always been a healthy mix of vacation or second homes that are rented weekly in summer, as well as full-time residences. And thus, the overlay sounded perfectly reasonable and the most natural thing to us. What is the difference anyway between North End and Croatan? You guys tell me. Of course, we thought it made perfect sense that all Croatan homes in Vanderbilt, Surfside, and South Atlantic, 3 streets with less than a 5-minute walk from the beachfront, should be allowed to be by right STRs if owners so desired. Literally, the beach is so close that city residents park on our streets and walk to the beachfront as well. And no normal home insurance, by the way, will insure these homes either because they're too close to the ocean. And because of the neighborhood dynamics, there will always be full-time residents as well as second home owners. As a matter of fact, comparing with 2003, full-time home ownership here has increased considerably. There is zero chance this becomes Airbnb hotspot. We are all ferociously and equally committed to keep this neighborhood as the ultimate definition of an upscale residential neighborhood, regardless to how long we reside here during the year. By mid-August, when we closed on our house, that overlay proposal for Croatan had magically disappeared from the city proposal, and now we would have to apply for a cap. And we said, what's the big deal? We checked the requirements. We have 5 parking spots for a 4-bedroom house, and there is a cap process that allows us to apply. So everybody so far has the right to apply for cap, a conditional use permit. As you certainly know, only until a bit more than a year ago, it was perfectly legal to rent short-term. So our rights recently shrank a bit. Now we don't have the right to rent short-term, but we do have the right to apply for a cap. But now we risk losing them entirely if these new changes you do get approved. We are concerned where this is going and about losing a right that only a short year ago was universal in the city. And indeed, we do support universal by right STR rights for homeowners of the whole Virginia Beach, but specifically for Croatan, which is a beachfront vacation neighborhood. That is really the main reason. We want to be able legally to rent short-term if we so desire. We strongly believe it is a natural right, some call it the homeowner's bundle of rights, that comes with home ownership, even more so with a property so close to the beach in a neighborhood that historically and continually has been a vacation neighborhood and that has been built by surfers as such. Please see our letter of support from neighbor about the history. Second, we do not want our home empty for long continuous periods of time. Third, flexibility is also something we need and we won't get with longer term rentals. Be able to visit our home at least monthly for the rest of the year. That's what we need. Thus, we shall not run a full year STR operation here, week in, week out, just a few weeks. Our schedules are such that we can come for a weekend or for longer periods of time on a whim and at a short notice. Handing the keys to someone for long extended periods of time would deprive us from enjoying our own property. We have owned the house for 6 months and have been visiting at least once per month, except when renting long term. Currently, we have it rented with a very long-term lease, over 3 months, and we did have 2 leases of 31 days or more. We are registered with the Commissioner of Revenue for transit and lodging taxes and just renewed for 2020.
Ma'am, thank you very much for your comments. You're out of time. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Speakers?
Mr. Chair, we have 8 speakers signed up for this item. The first speaker is John Minorino, followed by Christopher Sproul. Mr. Minorino, please start your comment.
Good afternoon. This is Captain Manorino. Thank you for the opportunity to respond to Ms. Lelouchi's application. I am in opposition to this application. You have before you my registered letters of opposition indicating why I don't want this property to be considered a short-term rental. I really don't want to spend the time to repeat what I already wrote in the letters. You know the instances of traffic problems, parking problems, ingress and egress issues because Croatan is single in, single out, and of course the beach. The beach, which has not been extended or restored in accordance with the Moffitt and Nichols study, still remains an issue for the residents of Croatan. By adding additional short-term residences to Croatan Beach, and for Vanderbilt, there are at least 16 properties on its street and at least another 10 on Surfside. You got that spreadsheet from our short-term rental committee as part of the Civic League, of which I am a member and also a board member, but I'm speaking from myself. I've also had a negative experience with the property adjacent to me. I live at 525. 519 has been a rental property, both short and long-term, and that property has been problematic. In fact, the first time we moved here, 519 hosted College Beach Weekend, and the property owner at the time of 519 assured us that it was rented by responsible people. But the after party ensued, and the police were called because at 4 a.m. there were disturbances ongoing. As far as it being a long-term property, 519 has also experienced an odd mix of individuals renting the property, including people who caused $15,000 in damage for the new owner of the property, who also owns 3 additional properties in Croatan. Now, of course, that's 519. For 528, we've observed that that property has been rented for a while, but in fact, those renters were quiet and didn't seem to create any problem, but that property was also vacant for a good portion of the year, as are many properties in Croatan that are considered vacation homes. So the onus is on us to monitor the property to ensure that there's nothing untoward going on, and also to register any complaints with the city. When you do that, you always risk retaliation in doing so. For 528, our concern is simply this. It is a smaller property. It has only 4 parking spaces. It does have on-street parking, which is limited, but often that on-street parking is taken up by surfers, as well as, during the season, beachgoers. It's problematic when you walk down the street where there are no sidewalks and you have people orbiting the block during the summer looking for spaces. It's also a challenge to leave my driveway. So in fact, if we look at all the properties that I'm surrounded with that are short-term rentals or potentially short-term rentals, there isn't any issue here with whether or not it's suitable, because you know, as well as I do, what Croatan is zoned for. It is zoned medium density, residential, and should...
Sir, thank you for your comments. Do we have any questions? No questions? Okay, next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Christopher Sproul, followed by Jan Perello. Mr. Sproul, please begin your comment. We move on to the next speaker, Jan Perello, followed by Amber Parker. Ms. Perello, please start your comment. Ms. Porello, please start your comment. We will move on to the next speaker, Amber Parker, followed by Claire Yoder. Ms. Parker, please start your comment. We will move on to the next speaker, Claire Yoder, followed by Paige Mayores. Ms. Yoder, please start your comment.
This is Claire Yoder. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please start your comment.
Great. I live at 622 Vanderbilt Avenue and more recently purchased 24 South Atlantic. I've been in Croatan for 15 years. I do not rent properties. I don't plan to rent properties. I'm not testifying on behalf of the LaLuchis because I have a vested interest in the short-term rental. I'm testifying on behalf of them and for the short-term rental for the LaLuchis because I feel very strongly that Croatan has a community vibe and a community character of a mix of people. My husband Eric and I are just the kind of people who like that sort of community. We didn't want a gated community. We didn't want, I don't know how to say, just highly wealthy kind of country club. I don't know. And Croatan appealed to us. I think that I know the character of the neighborhood, and I think short-term rentals fit into it. I think that we have one right across from us. We have two on either side of us. We've enjoyed the people who come, and I know it sounds odd, but you know, we just really feel it is part of the community to be near a beach like this and see families come and enjoy as we did when we were younger. So that's it. I just think the LaLuchis are good people. They're going to be very responsible. I know they've worked very, very hard on this, and I understand some neighbors have had some bad experiences. I feel bad for them. But again, we at the Civic League, I used to be on the board of the Civic League, are working on and really need to do a lot more to help with the enforcement that already exists on a few of these properties. That said, I do support limiting them to the extent of maybe the 3 streets that are close to the ocean, because if you get an 80% mix, I don't know if that would ever happen, but I think you can be overwhelmed by them. But at this point, we've actually sold quite a few short-term rentals. They've been transferred back into primary homes, and we are at the same stable number that we were at 2 or 3 years ago. So I track these things, and that's my comment. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker is Paige.
Well, excuse me one second. I'm getting a text that people are trying to get through and they're not being able to. The people that you called that said they weren't there, they're not being able to get online. I'm just letting you know that.
Yeah, they were on, but they got disconnected. That's
okay. All right.
So if they are signing back on, we can call them back. We can
okay. Okay.
The next speaker is Paige Mayores, followed by Dana Sampson. Ms. Mayores, please start your comment.
Thank you. Yes, I am speaking on behalf of the LaLuchis. They have engaged with us to manage the property, assuming that the CUP is approved. They have not rented it previous to this, and they're waiting to do things the right way and get their approval. Croatan has been historically a vacation rental spot. And I think the thing to note for you, and what I would ask the commissioners, is that the new ordinance has not been passed. We don't know what it will look like when it is passed. You guys don't know if they'll make changes to it as far as the streets in Croatan or other things, and you certainly don't know when it will be passed. So the request is that you look at this application on the merits today based on the ordinance that we have today. So that would be the first thing. The other thing, and this kind of relates back to the gentleman's comments earlier, the Croatan Beach is an asset of the city of Virginia Beach. It is an asset of all the citizens. It's not owned by Croatan or their citizens. If they would like to purchase it from the city of Virginia Beach, perhaps then they can speak about it as if they do own it. But they don't. It's an asset, and it should be leveraged for all of the citizens of Virginia Beach, including using it to attract tourists to our area to spend their tourist dollars. So I would ask you to consider those two things as you look at this application. This is a great application. Mrs. Luchi, they have been very responsible hosts and landlords, and as you heard her say, that she uses it quite often herself and plans to retire there. So so I ask that you would consider this. I ask you that you would pass it, that you would approve it. It is a model place for our vacationers to come and visit our beautiful city and enjoy our beach as citizens of Virginia Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker is Dana Sampson, followed by Kendall Maynard. Ms. Sampson, please start your comments.
Thank you so much. Just wanted to speak on behalf of, or in support of Enid's request for the CUP. Enid's home in Croatan is in one of our oceanfront area neighborhoods where homes have been used as vacation rentals for many years. She's made this home safe and available to visiting families to enjoy their beach vacation and has followed all the necessary requirements of the existing ordinance. I, in general, support all applications, in principle, based on the belief that we have that it's a natural right of a homeowner to rent their house short-term, long-term, however they decide, as long as they comply with the city ordinances. As such, I'm in support of Enid's CUP application and ask for a favorable recommendation from planning. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker is Kendall Maynard, followed by Christopher Sproul. Mr. Maynard, Ms. Maynard, please start your comments.
Hi, this is Kendall Maynard. I am a long-term and short-term operator in North End, and I fully support this type of STR in Croatan at 528 Vanderbilt, and the Luchis have done everything required of them. I have done a North End STR for 35 years and believe that it is the homeowner's right and natural right as well. The opposition, unfortunately, had a bad experience. That happens everywhere, whether it's a long-term or short-term, or even in your own home sometimes. So that has to be taken into account. The STR operators who serve guests and maintain these properties are extremely conscientious and are abiding by all these requirements for contracts per week and parking. This looks like a beautiful home to have as your next vacation in your own, for your own family, with a great location close to the beach. The likely guests will be families that do not cause any of the alleged issues that are being discussed. No more traffic than normal with a family that owns the property, no more noise or litter. Most STR operators charge a deposit, so if there is anything needed, the deposit will take care of it, or as Atkinson has said, a lot of times they charge an extra insurance policy. But, you know, we don't even want to get to those problems. We screen our families heavily before we even allow them to rent, long-term or short-term. Most families are very conscientious and well-behaved. I have not had a problem in 35 years. The very small problems I've had, I've taken care of with the help of my real estate company. I believe Atkinson's a great real estate company and will help the city to have a great STR location for families to come visit. There should be no concerns for this lovely family-oriented STR. Please vote for this STR. The Luchis are very responsible. As Dave Redmond said earlier, the entire city is a neighborhood. There is a serious organic need for STR housing in the city. And as pointed out by a previous speaker, several FTRs have gone back to the homeowners living in them, while some STRs are applying. So there's a natural attrition rate that's going on that I don't think has even been considered by the Planning Commission. So I fully support STRs by right and right of the property owner. And I believe this would be a great asset for the city and for Croatan. Thank you.
Wiener.
Mr. Redmond, go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to clarify this last speaker mentioned some of my comments. I want to clarify the comment I was making earlier with regard to the organic need for housing was for primary residences, and specifically in regards to a multifamily application that we considered earlier. So I don't want my words to be misconstrued or to be misinterpreted in any way. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Wah. Any more speakers?
The next speaker is Christopher Sproul, followed by Jen Perello. Mr. Sproul, please start your comment.
Yes, I'm just trying to speak in favor of her conditional use permit as a homeowner in Croatan Beach on Surfside. There's this ongoing debate inside of Croatan with the Civic League and everyone else as far as what to do with the short-term rentals. From speaking to all the neighbors walking around, not all the neighbors, but many of the neighbors walking around, seems like you get a very mixed reaction. But my take is that it's the homeowner's right, inherent right, to do what their property as they see fit based on what the current laws are at the time. And under the current recommendations, without the STR overlay being ratified one way or the other, it should be her right to do with her property as she sees fit. And that's why her conditional use permit should be considered until the city council comes down with some guidance one way or the other long term as to what to do. So I'll forgo the rest of my time, and that's just my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Jen Perello, followed by Amber Parker. Ms. Perello, please start your comment. Ms. Perello, please start your comment. We will move on to the next speaker, Amber Parker. Ms. Parker, please start your comment. She's caller 13.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please start your comment.
Hi, my name is Amber Parker. Thank you for having me. I am the Vacation Department Manager at Atkinson Realty, and I've worked for Atkinson Realty in the Vacation Department for 15 years. We are in support of this CUP for the property located at 528 Vanderbilt Avenue. We've maintained the properties year-round. We are in constant contact with our owners, our tenants. We meet them every Saturday when the guest checks in. They come in. We see them in person. We address any issues that they may have when they get here, what the check-in procedure, check-out procedure is. Somebody from our staff goes in every week to make sure everything's okay. We've worked with the Luchis for years. We manage one of their properties as well as several other owners in the Croatan neighborhood, and we do our best to make sure everything is, that's just families. They have a good time on vacation. They don't disturb anybody. They, get along well with a lot of the neighbors. Some of the people that have come back year after year are actually friends with a lot of the families in Croatan. And we strive to be professional. We give excellent service to make sure everybody has a great time. And we have on-call staff 24/7. So if anybody has any issues or if there's any problems, there's somebody, we all live here, and we address the problems directly, and we are available 24/7. So I believe that Enid has done everything to check all the boxes, and the CUP should be approved and professionally managed. We're happy to do that for her with Atkinson Realty.
Thank you, ma'am. Caller 21, can you please identify yourself?
21.
Caller 21. We will try Jan Perello one more time. Ms. Perello, are you there? That's all the speaker we have.
That's all the speakers. Okay. Mrs. Luchi, do you have any other comments you'd like to make?
Yes, I would like to make comments in response to Mr. Manarino, who is a neighbor that we have met and we love, together with his spouse. We naturally reject and do not condone any unfortunate disorderly events that may or may not have happened in Croatan, and that certainly were not caused by us or by our guests. We intend to assure all our neighbors and relieve them from their anxieties as long or at least as our property and our case is concerned, that we commit to be part of the solution and not the problem in Croatan. First of all, this is all anecdotal or very long time ago experience or example that he gave. I do find it, though, very telling and encouraging in a way that two of our neighbors in their letter, among them Mr. Manarino, had to work hard and drive deep in their joint memory lanes at least 5 years back because mentioned when he moved in. So I did calculate the time backwards, and this unfortunate and disgraceful event must have happened around 2015. So why I find this encouraging is because really go that far back to find an event, then maybe these are not as frequent as we are led to believe. And we intend indeed to just rent to families only, multi-generational kids. The other issue I wanted to address is because we rent to the families and because we do have 4 parking spots, which the staff already proved that it's sufficient parking for our permit. We do have an extra garage space. We literally have 5 parkings for this house, and we do not think we will ever have more than 2 or 3 cars parked in our driveway. Just think a little bit. Everybody want to risk their personal property, their car, with street parking when they have dedicated parking in the property that they are renting with 5 parking spaces in it. There is no reason our guests would be doing that. So it kind of defies the logic, actually, to use that as an excuse. The other thing is people come for vacation at the beach. They do not go around trying to find parking spots. They sit there in their house, have breakfast, and sit at the beach. They do not cause additional traffic in Croatan. They do not cause the erosion in Croatan. Like Paige also emphasized, this is a public beach, and it is really regretful that this is a conversation about who deserves to sit on the beach in Croatan beachfront. I have a house there. Are you guys telling me that I cannot have my guests sit in the beach because beach is eroded and because my guests do not own a title to my home? Or are you telling me, yes, you may have your brother sit there, but you may not get money for anybody in your house, and therefore he should not be sitting there? So where do you guys draw this line on this? And, you know, there are a lot of exclusive properties with beachfronts. They are in the Hamptons, they are in Malibu, Martha's Vineyard. I don't know. Maybe if I wanted to live in an exclusive neighborhood like that and buy a home there. But I love the public beach of Virginia Beach. I do love it. I do love the lifeguards. I do love how you guys have rules and regulations. No pets on the beach 10 to 4 or 10 to 6, whatever that is during summer days. Everything is open to all the public. And what makes people think that my guests will erode the beach more than the public parking lot guests of Croatan? Everybody is entitled. They park in the parking lot. They can use the beach. It's a free public beach. I do not understand this. The other issue is that in one of our letters, one of our neighbors says that we did not address their concerns. It is not true at all. You have it in your package in front of you. We went the extra mile to contact everybody. We contacted everybody verbally. We gave them our contacts. We let them know our intentions. We try to ensure them for their anxieties that we do not intend to let rowdy people, no unrelated parties, no college students, no people under 25, although we...
Ma'am, thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Luchi? Questions? No? All right. And that is all the speakers, correct?
He's finished. Finally.
That's all the speakers? Well,
Yes, sir. That is all the speaker we have on this item.
okay. We will close this and open it up for discussion. Mr. Alcaraz.
Open to hear some other comments, but I guess I'll get it started. I hear Ms. Lelouchi's comments. I hear her by right. I hear her supporters by right. I fully agree. I fully agree. And I guess on my lap, is the concern that, I heard one of the speakers said it's the principle thing, but yeah, it is. And I fully understand. But what concerns me is the reality of what's happening. And like I said, one of the speakers hit the nail on the head when he was expressing his viewpoint. But sorry, there's a lot of feedback. I don't know what that is. But anyway, he had mentioned that when there's issues, they'll take care of it, they'll fix it, and they'll move on to the next. And that's exactly what happens to some of these. I'm not saying all of them. And then the bottom line, it all comes down to management. Management is where it comes down. And of course, we don't have a history of management on these. We're not supposed to have a history of management. We're not supposed to have a history of incidents because they're not supposed to be operational. But my concern is this subdivision with the Civic League has voiced their concern. It's 100 plus is what I've heard from. I know we've heard for some support. I'm sorry, there's a lot of noise. Can you guys hear me? I don't know. Somebody else's is on, so I guess it's fading me out. But anyway, I just want to make sure that the reason I can't support this is because I'm on the side of the Civic League, the majority of the Civic League. I'm on the side of not turning this into what they call a commercial rental area. I fully agree with long-term rentals out there. I think in the past years when I was growing up, my family rented out there. So, but that's what I have to say right now with rentals and the short-term aspect in Croatan.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other comments? Somebody?
I'll go, David.
Okay.
I certainly agree with George. Croatan is and has grown into more of a neighborhood, I think, over the years than maybe it was years ago. And people who have bought there have invested significant sum of money in their homes with an expectation of some peace and solitude. Yes, it is a public beach. That is not this. That's not the point of this. There's plenty of people, as has been said, utilizing the public beach by parking in the public streets in Croatan, which they have a right to do. And so it is a public beach and is being used as a public beach. It doesn't mean that the neighborhood has to devote itself or allow members of the community to create many hotels. And part of the problem with Croatan and short-term rentals is, in fact, the number of people that can be housed in one dwelling. So it's just, and there are a number of short-term rentals in Croatan. There's plenty right now. I cannot support this application.
Thank you, Mr. Inman. Anybody else?
I think that, yes, as I listened to one of the speakers on the behalf of the applicant who talked about dealing with issues as they are right now. And I know sometimes we look down the road and wonder what might happen. So whether these things should be approved or not approved based on what will or might happen. And I think right now we should probably deal with the ordinance as it is. I agree with that concept. I don't think that we should look to what might happen or what will happen. And I'm going to support it. I think there was plenty of support there. And it's one of the safest communities in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I mean, there's nothing any safer than Croatan, if you know the history. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Well, y'all know where I am. I'm going to be consistent with what we've been voting on what I've been voting on for the last couple of months and today. So do you have a motion? George?
All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to make a motion that we deny the application.
All right, do you have a second? We need a second.
A second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Alcaraz for denial and second by Mr. Wall. Ready for a vote.
If you're in favor of the motion, say yes, and if you're opposed, say no. Mr. Alcaraz?
Aye.
Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Mr. Costin?
No.
Mr. Graham?
Aye.
Mr. Horsley? Mr. Horsley? Mr. Horsley?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Inman?
Aye.
Ms. Klein?
Aye.
Mr. Redmond?
Aye.
Ms. Oliver is absent. Vice Chair Wall?
Aye.
And Chair Wiener?
Aye.
By recorded vote of 9-4 and 1 against, agenda item number 16 has been recommended for denial.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. So to wind up today, Mr. Tahan is going to get us a date to do another virtual workshop, hour long, maybe hour and a half long. I think we'll need. He'll come up with some dates and throw it at us. We're good with that? We're good? Okay.
Yes, sir. We'll probably be looking similar to how we did last time. Thursday seemed to work well for everyone. So for Thursday, either next Thursday or the following Thursday, we will try to get that sent out for your confirmation today or tomorrow.
Sounds good. Do we have any old business? Any new business? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.